Okay, welcome everyone to the December 2020 IDA meeting. I'll be starting out first with the IDA meeting itself, and then later roll into the EDC meeting, and then the Seneca County Funding Court meeting. So it's just after 12. We have a quorum. As usual, we'll try to keep mics muted when not speaking to keep the background noise down. And if everyone can just sort of announce who they are when starting to speak, that'll be helpful. So the first order of business is approval of the November 5th meeting minutes. Does anyone have any issues or questions on the meeting minutes? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
This is Valerie.
Did someone second that?
This is Tom Kime. I'll second it.
Okay. So Kelly?
Ms. Bassett?
Yes.
Mr. Brusso?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mrs. Policelli?
Yes.
Mr. Trout?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley? Mr. Wadhams? Mr. Shipley and Mr. Wadhams absent, motion carried.
Okay. So next on the agenda is the financial statements. So Erica, if you could review those for us.
Sure. So if you want to take a look at your balance sheet, total checking and savings is up $3,241. That's due to net income, collection on notes, offset by the increase in the accounts receivable. The total accounts receivable increased $70,208. That's grant income. And then the long-term receivable decreased $8,000. That's due to the collection on notes. Total fixed assets decreased $4,665. That's depreciation. And then the net income, there was $65,876 for the month, a surplus of $27,000 year to date. As far as the income statement goes, there's $37,850 of income for the month of September. Expenses through October are down $19,000 from the year prior. Approximately $413,000 in expenses year to date. The three largest expenses for the year are payroll of $127,000, professional of $115,000, and benefits of $61,000. Let's see, other income, there's $240,000. Of that, $54,000 from Seneca County. There's the grant income of the $70,000, and then the sale of property of the $85,000. Other expenses, there's $44,000 of site development. You know what, Sarah or Pat, we talked about the sale of the property, and I'm wondering, did I state that right in the financial report?
Yes, I believe you did.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. I know that we discussed that.
Yeah.
I believe it's correct. Yes, Bob Kernan.
Thanks, Bob. That's it. That's all I have.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Anyone have any other questions or comments on the financials?
I have a question. This is Valerie. I have a question
Sure.
on the sale of property at $85,000. What is that? I know 65. I know what 65 was, but what's the other 20?
Year run. Wasn't 85 year run?
Oh, I thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it was 85 for Deer Run. The 65 for Hillside hasn't been reflected yet as sale of property because we haven't closed on the sale.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. So with that, can I have a motion to approve the financials for the month?
This is Menzo. I'll make a motion. Second, this is Dan.
Okay, so Kelly?
Ms. Bassett?
Yes.
Mr. Brusso?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mrs. Colacelli?
Yes.
Mr. Trout?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley and Mr. Wadums absent, motion carried.
Well, the next item, it's really a three-part issue, all pertaining to Deer Haven Park, the hillside property. The first item to discuss and review is the seeker review, which everyone has a copy in your packet. So Pat, if you could start us off with that.
Okay. We're going to be going over part 2 of the long environmental assessment form, also known as the EAF. But before we do that, I just wanted to bring to your attention one correction made on the part 1, page 2, under the government approvals, where we did add under other agencies, the Seneca County IDA for the tax abatement and a pilot. It was the only change in the part 1. Going on to part 2. Just a quick review. There's 18 questions. If we answered yes to any of the numbered questions, then we had to complete all the questions that follow in that section. However, if we answered no to that numbered question, then we were able to move on to the next numbered question. In all cases of the 18 questions, we did not need to move on to the next numbered question. So now we'll go through them one by one. Number 1 was the impact of land, where the proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. Staff is recommending no. Number 2, impact.
I think, Pat, just to be, clear on this, the seeker is for the land transfer. Anything that's done on the property after the transfer will need its own seeker and its own separate review.
That is correct. It's for the sale of the property only.
Yes, and not for any potential plans or any potential construction or changes on the property.
That's correct. Number 2, impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in modification or destruction or inhibit access to any unique or unusual land forms on the site, such as cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, caves. Staff recommends no is the answer to that question. Question number 3, impacts on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies, such as streams, rivers, ponds, or lakes. Staff is recommending no is the answer. Question 4, impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in a new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. Staff is recommending no. Number 5, impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on lands subject to flooding. Staff is recommending no. Number 6, impacts on air. The proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. The answer the staff is recommending is no. Number 7, impacts on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna. Staff is recommending no. Number 8, impact on agricultural resources. The proposed action may impact agricultural resources. Staff is recommending no. Number 9, impact on aesthetic resources. The land used to propose action are obviously different from or are in sharp contrast to current land patterns used between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. Staff is recommending no. Number 9, impact on historic and archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historical or archaeological resource. Staff is recommending no. Number 11, impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or a reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. Staff is recommending no. Number 12, impact on critical environmental areas. The proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area, CEA. Staff is recommending no. Number 13, impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. Staff is recommending no. 14, impact on energy. The proposed action may cause or an increase in the form of any form of energy. Staff is recommending no. Number 15, impact on noise, odor, and light. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. Staff is recommending no. Number 16, impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. Staff is recommending no. Number 17, consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. Staff is recommending no. 18, consistency with community character. The proposed action is inconsistent with the existing community character. Staff is recommending no. We then go on to part 3, and on page 2 of part 3, upon review of the information recorded in the AF as noted, plus any support information, and that's not applicable, in considering both the magnitude and importance of each identified potential impact, it is the conclusion of the Seneca County Industrial Development Agency as lead agency that, and staff is recommending that we check block A, this project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Accordingly, this negative declaration is issued. So we will need a motion that part 1 was completed, part 2 has been reviewed by the IDA board, and part 3, and a determination has been made that there will not be any significant adverse impact on the environment. Therefore, a negative declaration can be issued.
This is Valerie. I'll move that a negative declaration be declared.
Ms. Menzo, second.
Okay, we have a resolution, motion and a second. So Kelly?
Ms. Bassett?
Yes.
Mr. Brusso?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Keim?
Yes.
Mrs. Policelli?
Yes.
Mr. Trout?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Wadham? Mr. Wadham's absent, motion carried.
Okay, next item on the agenda is PAAA compliance for Deer Haven Park. Sarah, if you could kick us off on that one.
Sure. So the resolution you have before you is the final step in our PAAA compliance to close on the sale of hillside property to Earl Martin. I believe Rob Halpin is on the phone now and can speak more to any specific questions that you all may have regarding the need for this resolution or why we are doing this.
Yep, I'm here. Basically, the last step in the PAAA compliance is the board has to make a series of findings, and the resolution just sets forth the findings that the statute requires. It may look familiar from other transfers, such as the depot, where we did a similar resolution.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or issues with this? I guess hearing none, can I have a motion to approve?
This is Don. I'll make a motion.
This is Erica. I'll second.
Roll call, Ms. Bassett,
Yes.
Mr. Russo,
Yes.
Mr. Case,
Yes.
Mr. Kime,
Yes.
Mrs. Policelli,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Trout,
Yes.
Mr. Wadums, absent, motion carries.
So the next item is a discussion on the Deer Haven Park lease and sale. So Sarah, if you could review this for us.
Sure, Steve. So this is the final resolution to approve the one-year pilot for Deer Haven Park related to the sale of Hillside. So staff conducted a public hearing on November 19th via live stream due to COVID. We had quite a few attendees for this one and quite a few comments, which were included in your packets. I'll just briefly summarize some of the folks that commented. The County Board of Supervisors submitted a letter in opposition to the pilot and to the sale of the property to Mr. Martin. Peter Jennings, the South Seneca School Board President, made a comment in opposition to the pilot. Mayor Richardson of Interlaken made a comment in opposition to the pilot. And Patty Nogle from the town of Fayette also made a comment in opposition to the pilot. So that's sort of the gist of the hearing. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has. Just as a refresher, the proposed pilot is roughly a $10,000 payment for the 1 year, with the estimated exemption being around $97,000. Based on the current assessed value, and then the pilot payment was set as if Mr. Martin were paying full taxes on a $350,000 parcel as opposed to a $3.8 million parcel.
And Sarah, I think that during the last 20 years when it was part of Kids Piece and leased by Hillside, there was no taxes, no property taxes paid on that parcel, even though it was assessed for the 3.8.
Correct. The Hillside campus has not paid property taxes, and I believe, Pat, correct me if I'm wrong, at least 50 years, really since, before the Army took over. So it's been a long time. Long overdue for some revenue to come back to the community from that property.
So does anyone have any comments, questions?
Yes, Steve, this is Tom. So what was the position put forth? They felt he should buy it and hoped he'd buy it and pay this full assessment. They hoped he walked away and didn't buy it. You know, what was that they wanted to accomplish with the objection? To stop the sale, or thinking he'd buy it and pay that kind of money?
The impression that I received was more to stop the sale. There were quite a few different arguments thrown out by the county in opposition to the sale specifically, including that they felt it wasn't appropriate for us to go out to bid during a pandemic. They felt the outreach wasn't widespread enough, that the bid price was too low. You know, I mean, kind of honestly what was to be expected given the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
As I think you're all aware, you know, Mr. Martin has made it clear to me in conversations as we've been dealing with this opposition that if we were forced to go back out to bid, that he would not rebid for the property. This has, you know, become quite a headache as it is. And, you know, he's just looking to move forward and move on with business.
Yeah. Well, and we all realize that, you know, in the past we've had property here as well as this one that we've tried to find buyers for a long period of time. If we don't get this moved and sold now, we're going to have winterization issues and freezing and all kinds of other problems to take care of this winter. I'm not sure what other people want us to do, but all right. I just wanted to know a little bit more input on what was being discussed.
Yeah, and actually it looks like Chairman Heisen just joined us. So, you know, if anybody is interested in hearing more about the county perspective, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to share.
Okay.
This is Valerie. I just like to point out that we're getting, first of all, income, or there will be income from this property tax-wise for the first time in probably more like 70 years. And the fact that the carrying charges for this property, just leaving it vacant for the IDA is quite staggering. I don't remember the figure, and maybe Sarah, you have that figure on what the carrying charges are, the expenses of just holding on to it and not getting it sold.
I don't have the specific number off the top of my head, but I recall it was somewhere between $80,000 and $100,000 that we expected to spend this year since we took over the bills for the property. So since March of this year through December, when we were anticipating transferring the property.
That's correct.
Yes, I think that did not include any major expense for winterization or any further repairs.
No, it did not.
It ends up being a money pit, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So with this, does anyone have any comment or would like to discuss this further before we put this out to a vote?
Well, I guess all things considered, if Chairman Heisen would be willing to express concerns over and above what we have in the letter, I would certainly be interested in considering those points.
Well, I just signed on. I don't know what we're talking about.
Steve, you're muted.
Little audio feedback issues here, but I believe Bob said that he really just signed on to listen to the IDA discussion.
I think the board of supervisors, sorry about that, my doorbell. I just like to say, I think the board of supervisors position was quite clear in the letter to us and to the state. I'd like to move this resolution approval forward. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Do we have a second? Oh, Don seconds. So Kelly? Yes.
I'm not hearing anything. This is Menzo.
Oh, no, Kelly, can we do the roll call?
Ms. Bassett? Oh, something's wrong with my phone.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Kime?
Say it again, I
Kime?
unmuted him.
Mr. Kime?
Yes.
Mrs. Politelli?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Trout?
Yes.
Mr. Wadham? Mr. Wadham's absent, motion carries.
So next item on the agenda, items to just be disposed of for the supplies and equipment policy, which I guess is easy. There's no items to dispose of for 2020. So there's nothing to discuss there. And the next item, the IDA board schedule. Everyone has received a copy of the proposed meeting dates for 2021. Is there any issue with anyone with those dates, or are we all set to make that final? I guess hearing nothing, that'll be our schedule for 2021. See, is Bill Yale? Yes, Bill Yale's on the phone. So Bill, if you can give us an update on the Sampson Veteran Memorial Cemetery. Oh, yes, Bill? I guess while trying to get some audio from Bill, why don't we just move ahead to Jeff Shipley for an update from the Chamber of Commerce?
Sure, Steve. As I reported to this board for over the last couple of meetings, the Chamber of Commerce, in conjunction with the IDA and the county, as well as several other businesses and community stakeholders, have been working collaboratively over the last 6-7 months related to COVID issues involving our business community, involving our community at large. And we've come together under the heading of One Seneca. We hold monthly meetings, weekly meetings actually, where we discuss a range of issues from public health to its impacts on the business community. And today, this morning, was our most recent session. And no surprise, we heard that COVID cases are on the rise, and it is affecting our community as well as those across our nation. And so one of the initiatives that has come from today's session was that we are looking to do everything we can possibly do to communicate a broader message to our community at large, including our business stakeholders, to be responsible when it comes to helping slow or stop the spread of COVID, and really empower people, whether it be business owners or community at large members, organizational leaders, to have a communication channel with some of our county's top leaders in regards to the response to COVID. So we are coming out with more of a marketing campaign, if you will, to educate our local community on the steps being taken to date and the ongoing efforts, as well as opening up the One Seneca weekly calls to community members at large. And we really are, we think that this is a good way to keep our community engaged and informed. And we are looking forward to continuing that collaborative effort between all of us, but particularly among the three organizations, as I mentioned earlier, with One Seneca. Really, the IDA, the Chamber, and the county have really done a great job in moving this initiative forward. It is for the benefit of the community, and I think it's something that we can all, or should all, get behind and support. So that's my update when it comes to the Chamber efforts, Steve. Very brief, but very important that the IDA board, as well as the general public, understand what efforts are being done on a COVID basis in response to COVID, and what our community is doing to come together during this time. So that's my response, my report.
Hey, thank you, Jeff. Anyone have any questions for Jeff? If not, we'll try again with Bill. Bill Yale, are you on the line? Well, I guess Don Trout, if you could give us an update from the Seneca County Board of Supervisors.
Sure. There was some discussion at the last board meeting as far as the deed transfer goes for the Fire Training Center, and the Board of Supervisors would like Earl Martin to put it in writing that he will replace the building that he agreed to replace. He said at some point that he was going to put up a new structure to replace a structure on part of the property where he was going to be using a house or a building of some sort. And other than that, there's not a whole lot to report. I would just echo what Jeff said. There's a lot of discussion about COVID and educating the community. The Board of Supervisors, the town supervisors are the point of contact for the three-stage plan as far as handling COVID complaints and everything else. And it seems to be going pretty well. There's not too many supervisors that aren't on board with the current plan, being the point of contact, going out and visiting a business when there's a complaint. I personally have gone out to one business. There's been 2 complaints in Waterloo as far as people not wearing masks and other people blowing people in and everything else. So it seems to be going well, and it's pretty well received in the community when you show up. There's not a lot of problems as far as that goes. I know that everybody's probably seen that Sodders is going to have their first hearing, and as far as I know, that's the first hearing for COVID complaints. So we'll see how that goes and what transpires from that. Other than that, I think I don't have much more to add.
Thank you, Don. Does anyone have any questions or any comments for Don? If not, we'll try again with Bill.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I've been able to hear you all, but you haven't been able to hear me. Greetings from South Seneca, first off. Things have gone well this year, considering the odd situation of COVID. We have been considered essential employees through this, so we've been to work every day. We have to come. Burials continue on. We've had to adjust throughout COVID to the various restrictions, not only passed by New York State, but also I've been using the National Cemetery guidelines as well. So I've had 2 good sources of telling me what we could do and what we couldn't. We originally started out with, when things were severe, where families could conduct a burial, but without any type of services, no military honors, no clergy. And then they even had to watch the burial from the road. So we went through that period, and then it opened up more where they allowed services to take place again. However, and that's where we are now. Everyone needs to wear a mask at the service. People need to social distance themselves away from people that they didn't come in the car to the cemetery in. So it's flowing smooth. Most people are used to it nowadays, but so we continue to operate in that manner, but it was stricter a couple months back. For this, as of right now, we have 765 burials at the cemetery. I don't see any big difference on more deaths or less deaths because of COVID. We're right about where we are every year about this time, give or take a few. So I haven't really seen anything at my end where we're doing a lot more burials because of COVID. We seem to keep pretty much our same numbers going, and that's where we're at now. We have 89 burials as of today for 2020. And of course, we still have a little bit less than a month, so we'll see where we end up on that. We have Wreaths Across America coming up. I waited until the last possible minute I could before I decided to nix the whole program or try to go through with it in another manner. And right at the time, a lot of you probably saw on your national news that for one day, Arlington said that they weren't going to do Wreaths Across America. But I think there was such an uproar that the very next day they changed their opinion on it, and they are having it. And we're basically doing the same thing in the way Arlington is. If you read their rules, they're restricting it for a certain period of hours for family only to come out, do a simple wreath laying. There's no type of military honor guards. There's no music. There's the whole 9 yards. It's a simple wreath laying, and that's what I've got scheduled for us on the 19th. I've got from 10 to 12 is family only who sponsored a wreath. I've put in our advertisement on this that COVID precautions will be fully enforced, and so basically what will happen, instead of the normal way we do it, people will just come out, pick up their wreath, take it to the grave site, place it at the grave site, maybe spend a couple minutes there, take pictures, and then move along. And then the next family would come and do their wreath. And the good thing about this is everybody will be scattered all over the cemetery as they're placing these wreaths. So I feel pretty comfortable with handling this. From 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, we have groups and members of the public who sponsor wreaths every year. They're allowed to come at that time. And any grave sites not decorated by family, they will then decorate. And then once 1 o'clock comes, any grave sites that still aren't decorated by people who have sponsored wreaths, I'll have a small team here that is helping me to run this even in a smaller format. And we'll decorate the final graves. And then I put out from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, the general public may come to take pictures, visit, things like that. So I'm pretty comfortable with it. I think we could control it well. And as I said, once I looked at Arlington's rules, I've seen that we're following pretty close to what they're doing. So we'll get through it. And I think people will be still enjoy being able to come out and decorate the grave sites. We've had, as some of you probably know, we've built a maintenance building that was originally a grant from Assemblyman Palmisano, gave us some years back. Well, it finally got pushed through and we got a brand new building. Just so happened at the time that Lowe's, they do a program every year called the Heroes Project, where they look for a veterans organization to help out. Well, we applied and we got chosen, and they came down and did a complete interior remodeling of this maintenance shop. We basically didn't have anything to go in there. They brought toolboxes, tools, workbenches, painted the entire interior of the building, did a whole day, 2 days actually, of work there. And I don't know what the entire dollar amount is, but we sure got a lot of things from Lowe's, and we're very thankful that they took an empty building and made it into a shop for us. So we're very pleased. And then just more recently, a group called the Stafford Institute made a donation through ex-Senator Nozzolio, of $5,000. They wanted us to buy something tangible with it. One thing that we haven't had since we've opened here was a piece of equipment that we could use to take from the workshop or the fields and bring it out onto the burial field. So we got what's a UTV. I never heard of UTV before. I just always thought of ATV, but a UTV is a utility terrain vehicle, and it's often called a side-by-side. So it has a dump box on the back of it. We can now take dirt from the burial field, put it in the UTV dump box, take it off and dump it where we dump our spoils. And plus it has a snow plow with it, which will help us taking care of some smaller snow plow jobs around here. The county does the big roads, but we've always taken care of sidewalks and things like that. So anyways, we just got that donation as well, and it was something, like I said, we've been doing without for years, and it's really nice to have that piece of equipment now. And so that's basically where we are right now. Getting ready to close out the year and start a new year, in which I guess we go through 6 months with you at the EDC and then transfer over to the county. I've already done the preliminary budget 2021 with the county. So we're ready to go, and both EDC and the county knows the dates. It dies June 30th or July 1st. And so business as usual down here. If anyone has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Anyone with any questions or comments on the cemetery? If not, well, thank you for the update, Bill. And yeah, it's been an exciting last almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
Huge difference. So next on the agenda, Sarah's just give you a review. She put together a relatively brief update on priorities and activities in 2020, especially compared to last year. So Sarah?
Thanks, Steve. So you all received in your packets what we call the end of year progress report, just outlining some of the accomplishments that we made, specifically comparing 2020 to 2019. Because as you all know, this year has been a bit of a downer for most people, and so every once in a while we need some good news. And it turns out on a lot of our metrics, we actually have outperformed this year what we did last year, despite the pandemic. So business retention visits this year were up 40%. We did 35 visits as compared to 25 last year. Our projects approved were up 25% this year. Private capital invested, so this is by the projects, not by the IDA. So the outside investment these projects have brought in this year was about 33 million compared to 24 last year, which is up 36.5%. And the per project investment is up 9.2%. So all good things. And then as far as our exemptions go, we've actually seen a decrease on the exemptions granted per project of 18.4, which is again positive. So getting more outside investment and less public subsidy. And then per dollar invested, the exemptions have also gone down about 28.6%. And then as far as an update on our priorities for this year, I'm pleased to say that we have either completed or made substantial progress towards 12 of the 15 that we had outlined just earlier this summer. And those were priorities for the remainder of this year as well as into 2021. And actually in the update version that we gave you, we added an additional few priorities, some of which are also in progress and moving forward. So all good news on this front, at least for right now, but I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
And this is Valerie. A couple of things. Who made the visits to the businesses? Was it all Jim Armstrong, or did you accompany him at all, or how did that go?
I accompanied him to almost every visit he did this year.
Excellent. I like to hear that.
And prior to Sarah arriving, I participated in 4 or 5 with Jim.
Yep.
That's
and then there's
good.
some that we've done on our own as well without Jim. So
yeah.
Okay. And just one other comment. I like this report a lot. I think it's really important that we all see this, and it'd be nice if the public saw it. I also think updating this on a quarterly basis would be something that the board, I as a member would certainly like to see it quarterly, and just helps keep everything on track and lets you as well as the board see progress. And, you know, soon we'll be able to compare 2020 to 2021.
That's the goal.
Any other questions for Sarah or comments on the update? Yeah, thank you, Sarah. It's a good, nice to have a good review of what's going on. It's so easy to forget what we've done over the year. Next issue is other business, and I have 2 items. The first item is would like to thank Erica for her 5 years on the board. As you know, this is going to be her last board meeting. Be leaving to spending more time with the business, and I think she's made a tremendous contribution to the board, and like to thank her for her service and her impact to the board. I think we have a plaque for her also.
We do. Kelly has in the office, so we'll have to get that to you, Erica.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. It's been really great working with you all. And the service that you do as an IDA board member, I never knew before I was on the board how much work you all put into this, and how much work it would be. And I just really appreciate everyone on the board and all the lessons that I've learned about the county IDA, and just wish nothing but the best moving forward for you guys. Good luck.
Thank you. And you too, Erica.
Yes, Erica. Thanks. Yeah, thanks a lot. Well, just have to somehow find someone who can fill your shoes. The next business is just an update from Sarah on the Hillside sewer division.
Yes, so some of you may be aware, obviously, Don knows about this, being on the Board of Supervisors, but they are going to be holding a public hearing on December 8th regarding the proposed segmentation of County Sewer District 2, which is the sewer district that services the Hillside campus and First Light. So they are proposing to segment specifically those 2 properties from everybody that's in the district south of that point, so that they can adjust the volume charge per EDU to cover what the county has termed the direct and indirect costs of operating the Hillside wastewater treatment plant to those two users. So because they're doing a public hearing, we have an opportunity to submit a comment if we so choose. So we wanted to put that before the board and to let you know that the proposed increase is going from $30 per EDU per quarter to $454 per EDU per quarter. That's a 1,413% increase in the rate. And so, for example, the IDA, if we weren't able to transfer the property to Mr. Martin, we would expect to pay total annual charges in sewer of $99,540.
And Sarah, do you know offhand what First Light, their charges?
So
Go to?
based on the calculations that were given and the way it was termed is that First Light would be charged 1 EDU, so $454 per quarter, which again is still a drastic increase for them. And then the Hillside campus would be billed 52.5 EDUs. This was based on a calculation that the Hillside campus, prior to Hillside actually moving out, was being billed at 53.5 EDUs. So they took that as the total for the whole new segmented district and essentially said, okay, what rate do we have to get to cover all of our costs? We don't know yet if that's necessarily the final breakdown of how things are going to go. The resolution was worded a little bit open-endedly, but nevertheless, Earl's planning on writing a letter opposed to this. First Light is looking into making some sort of comment, but we wanted to, put it before the board, that this is on the table and that, this may or may not be seen as a way of the county trying to move quicker and provide everyone associated with the incentives to implement their own private sewage treatment plant alternatives, and so they can decommission the wastewater treatment plant, which they can't currently do until there is an alternative in place. The DEC won't allow it.
This is Valerie. Unfortunately, it's one more thing to add to our business unfriendly climate here in Seneca County. It's very unfortunate. I do hope that the projects we hope will go forward and that the other business that's there will stay. We certainly don't want to lose them, though the business climate, as I said, gets less friendly all the time here in Seneca County.
And that's a good point, Valerie, and that's definitely been one of our concerns and something that we've tried to communicate with First Light. But, they have in the past expressed that this may end up being a tipping point for them in choosing whether or not to stay at the depot, which I'd like to point out as well for all of you should matter a great deal, because technically the IDA still owns the property that First Light is on. We have an agreement with them to transfer it after they make a certain amount of capital investment, but that threshold has not been hit yet. So if the business climate drives them out, then we will yet again be stuck with more depot property to dispose of.
Yeah, just another comment about carrying charges for Hillside. On top of $100,000, or give or take, to just maintain the status quo at that property, we'd just about double that for what we're just speaking of now. That certainly isn't something that the IDA is capable of doing. Perhaps the county should take on the property should the sale not go forward.
I absolutely agree with that, Valerie. Absolutely.
One problem during the finding a person to purchase the property was the lack of or soon to be lack of a sewer system that the person would have to install their own sewer system or spend hundreds of thousands, if not, $1 million just for sewer. So there's, the purchase prices doesn't reflect the total cost to make that property usable. So I think what we're looking for is somewhat of a consensus from the board. Does the board want to move forward and send a comment on the proposed law from the Board of Supervisors on this?
This is Valerie again. I think it's the IDA's job to do that.
Absolutely. I think so too. This is Steve. You don't think it's overall just a deterrent to throw a wrench in the whole Earl Martin deal, do you?
I don't know. I'd like to, reserve judgment and like to believe that they're unrelated. But honestly, that would be a better question for the supervisors that were initially pushing this change to begin with.
I mean, originally, they weren't even going to tie into the hillside, right?
You mean the Earl with his plans?
Well, this goes back before you were on board, I think, Sarah, but somebody else helped me out with that. But when they started talking about that sewer project out south, they were not even going to tie in hillside because it was going to be too expensive, correct?
Yes, Steve, this is the other Steve. That's correct.
Yeah,
that the looking at it, because there was a review, it should be a centralized sewage treatment plant for the South County. Should there be multiple plants? There's a lot of discussion back and forth. And I think the conclusion from the Board of Supervisors was the hillside treatment plant was only served a very limited community, and with Hillside stepping away from their lease, there was no longer any, incentive or any desire to either upgrade that treatment plant or tie them into another plant. So essentially the thought at that point, once Hillside decided to stop or walk away from their lease, that that property was going to be without sewer service.
Right, and in trouble basically down the road, So
Yes.
Thus, the supervisor's decision in the and maybe that's not the only point, but in my eyes, it's a big factor in driving only one bidder coming to the plate and bidding on the thing in the first place. So their decision on to exclude it from the sewer line probably had a lot to do with people even being interested in the property to begin with. So their decisions up front, they don't want to take responsibility for that decision making some kind of having a lot to do with the outcome of this, how this is all coming out now. And now if they do tie in, they want to charge some exorbitant amount, and it just seems to me like it's awful funny. This is all coming back around again now, and I almost go along with Valerie. Is we may come back around again if and offer this back to the county. Say, okay, here you guys do with it what you want. We'll give it to you for nothing. You sell it to Earl. You sell it to whoever you can find a better bidder, and you take care of the whole thing from falling apart or finding a buyer or whatever. This is crazy. This is going around in circles. Jesus, I had another question I wanted to ask, and now I've lost it. Well, I'll be quiet for a minute and let anybody else speak, and I'll think of it probably.
This is Steve.
Don
So I
Don
guess,
here.
oh, yes, John.
So part of this is inconvenient timing. And originally, there was a centralized option. All the conveyance was going to go down to Willard, and we were going to upgrade and make a kind of a super station out of Willard, so we could there could be some expansion in the south end of the county. That project was going to be $25 million, something $26 million, and we originally approved that, and then the new supervisors all got elected, and we basically informed the DEC we no longer wanted to go with the centralized option, that we wanted to go with the split option, not make the big super station down there in Willard, just fix what we had and then fix the pump stations. And part of the reason they got to the point where they wanted to fix what they had was it's going to be around 18 million instead of 25 million. And you're going to have multiple stations just like you have now. And one of the ways that they got that number down to 18 was by getting rid of Willard, or not Willard, Hillside, the Hillside campus, and decommissioning that little station over there. So it's been in the works for a long time. As far as it's at least been a year with the decision that the new supervisors made to not go with the centralized option anymore. And I pushed really hard for the centralized option. I felt like it was the way to go, but I got outvoted on the board, and now we're back to this fix what we have type situation because the cost is several millions less. And
Upfront cost, and how about long-term cost, Don?
well, that's the thing. That the centralized option long term would have been better. Say 20 years down the line, you'd have saved a lot of money because you would have been only dealing with one treatment plant. Now you're going to have two that you got to check on all the time, and that's
right.
More labor and it's more cost. And when the DEC decides that they're going to change their parameters again, now you got to upgrade all these other things again. So
exactly.
That's why we wanted to go with the latest, greatest, biggest, best thing for the treatment center down at Willard. Was so when the DEC does change the parameters again, we could just upgrade the one plant. That was my line of thinking and a couple other people's lines of thinking, but the cost really scared everybody. And it shouldn't have scared them that much because we had $5 million grant, and then after your $5 million grant, then you can go out for other grants. And they gave Barton LaJudas gave us the example of Watkins Glen. They put a $30 million plant in, and I think they only put up maybe bonded 5 or 8 million of it. So that's kind of what we were trying to do with the centralized option, but instead we're going to go with this split option now, and it's going to cost, I don't know, 17, 18 million. So it's been in the works for several years, but they made the decision to go with it about a year ago. And ever since then, this dual option, now it's coming to fruition almost right at the same time we're dealing with the Martin thing. So I don't think it's intentional, but what they're trying to do is make Hillside pay for their portion of it exclusively through the Hillside plant by the way the numbers are working out. They consider it a burden. So they didn't do it on purpose, but it's kind of on purpose. because it is such a cost to that district the way that they're doing it now. And honestly, in the centralized option, I don't know if it would have been as bad, based upon whatever kind of bonds we might have gotten, what kind of grants we might have gotten. You know, we never made it to that step in order to get that far down the line. So the initial EDU cost was exorbitant. I mean, it was a big EDU cost because the engineers couldn't plan on getting grants they hadn't already gotten yet, right? So it made the EDUs look gigantic, you know, 600, 800, stuff like that for normal customers. And the way they have it broken down now for the regular residential customer, it's about half that. So it's just not half that for Hillside, obviously. So that's a little bit more insight into what's going on here.
I appreciate the history. Thanks, Don. That helps me a lot.
Yep, no problem.
So I think to move forward on this, does anyone have any objection to the IDA sending written comments to the Board of Supervisors on this item for the December 8th, yes, December 8th public hearing?
I do not.
So not hearing anyone that has any objection, then we'll move ahead, and Sarah's in the middle of drafting that up actually right now.
Ms. Menzo, we'll see the comments before.
Yes, we'll send a draft around everybody for review and comment before it goes to the county.
Sure. And from my standpoint, if we lose the tenant in former depot, maybe it is best that the county supervisors, elected officials, take that asset and find a way to dispose of it or to make better use of it. I mean, it's a fairly big area in our county. It's an important piece. And I'm just concerned as an unelected official, I'd hate to have to take a stance where, you know, we're selling off pieces and it's just a hot mess. And maybe it's best that the county board takes this thing and deals with it and finds a better way. I mean, maybe they got resources we don't. Maybe they've got connections.
Well, this is Valerie. The county board, the majority, has certainly made it clear that the IDA isn't doing a very good job, according to them, of handling the properties and trying to dispose of them. So that must mean that they could do it better, and I think they should have the opportunity.
Let's hope it won't actually come to that, and that, you know, First Light will stay and, you know, be a happy tenant member of the community for many more years. And let's hope that the sale to Earl Martin goes through as planned, and we can proceed with the development that's already in store for that area.
Let's hope so. Feels like we're paddling upstream. Is Don? Don, as long as you're on there, has there ever been any talk from the supervisors say, geez, we should take that over, we can handle that better or anything like that, or it's just all been criticism?
A lot of criticism. When I first got on the board of supervisors 5 years ago, there was a lot of talks about the supervisors taking the Army depot before it was sold to Earl Martin. Okay.
Yeah.
And you had some people on there that really wanted it, and I was very much in opposition because, for environmental reasons, the DEC hasn't even invented the law yet that would have burdened taxpayers with enormous fines, right? So the IDA, in my opinion, should have always had the depot. And as far as the sale went, I was very happy that a private individual took that over. In my opinion, it's a big risk considering environmental factors. You know, it sits right between two lakes. We got this PFOA thing going on right now from the fire facility, and God only knows what else they're going to come up with in the future. So I think that the governing body of the Board of Supervisors, I don't think should ever be involved with what the Army Depot is, just based upon those reasons. Right? And there hasn't been any specific talks about taking it, the land. That has not been going on. But what the criticism is that it was sold too cheap, and there's a lot of supervisors that feel that way. I don't like the $8,000 a month that place costs, just sitting stagnant, much less the cost of winterization and everything else, which is why I support Earl and the deal that we have with him right now. And I think that that's the right direction to go. Private, you're getting tax revenue from it. Just keep going in that direction. But the people at the south end of the county that are on the board, a lot of them strongly disagree with the sale the way it is now. And there's not, there was maybe 5 or 6 supervisors that were in support of what's going on, and then the rest of them don't like what's going on, right? So it's not a unanimous thing to the board. I don't think the board should be getting involved with those sorts of property deals. I see a potential disaster for the taxpayer in that circumstance. But it's also a question that hasn't come up yet, which at the next Board of Supervisors meeting, when I give my briefing on the IDA, I'll bring it up to them and see what they actually think about a situation like that. And I think that it needs an answer. You know, does the Board of Supervisors want to go down that road, or are we just speaking critically over the decisions we're making on the IDA board? You know, I think that you do need an answer to that.
This is Valerie. First of all, Don, I appreciate your common sense and your IDA support, and mainly because you're you know what's going on because you pay attention at the board meetings and educate yourself on that. I think the supervisors, and I unfortunately have to say it about these South End supervisors, they haven't been well educated and they don't understand the project. I'll say that for most elected officials throughout the county, and certainly down here in the South End, I'm seeing a lack of understanding of the true project and its ramifications.
I agree with that.
Yeah, this is Tom. I haven't said a lot on this, but I will comment on this piece of it. And I do agree with Valerie, Don. I think you're informed and taking a very reasonable approach. But I'll comment, you know, although I have a certain personal interest in just saying, here, county, take it over, see what you do with it. That really is the wrong thing. IDAs are created to take the politics out of it, try to make the best decisions, either to limit our county's cost and our cost of having something, or do the best we can to create economic development, to bring in businesses and to do things, and try to keep the political process out of it. IDAs, unfortunately, end up being the entity that sometimes does that, and most times gets to blame that you could have done it better. In reality, that's not usually the case. And so it's easy for us to kind of walk away from it and say, hey, here it is to whoever. That's really not usually the best case to do it, and I've seen that in other counties. And so, you know, we certainly want county input. I know how much we try, how much we market things, how many different places we've talked with over time in trying to market the property, having national firms and everything that we've done. The reality of it is, I think we've done the best job we can to bring in businesses into that county area, to move properties, and to limit the liability and reduce cost and hopefully accomplish as much as possible. I don't think doing that in a political environment with another entity makes it better. I think it makes it worse, although I would very much like to just say, here it is. I don't think that's the right thing to do. So just my comment on it.
This is Valerie again. You know, we'd like to depoliticize this, but the Board of Supervisors has not allowed us to do that.
Yep. It's just part of the world we live in.
I would just chime in here on this point as well, because while I agree with almost everything that I've heard, especially Don, related to what your comments were and where you were maybe a short year ago with your support, I do think it is very unfortunate for the taxpayers and residents of Seneca County to have an evolving situation where it seems like the IDA is being pitted against the Board of Supervisors. And while I completely respect the division of politics, I do think there is some of that's always going to be interjected into these. I would love to see some sort of a solution where supervisors would be willing to maybe have a joint session with us so we can better understand where we are and, more importantly, where we're going. Because as someone pointed out earlier, the non-business friendly approach here in Seneca County is to everyone's disadvantage in this community, particularly when you see some of the efforts being done around us. And if people want to see a more developed, better economic climate, it's going to take people setting egos aside and coming together.
Yeah, Jeff, I would agree with that. I would also note, and you weren't part of some of those things, we've actually had county board of supervisors on, invited them in, had them on committees as we talked over different sales, had them agree to and vote on certain initiatives. And then when it came to a done deal, have them criticize it and be against it, although they sat on the same committee approving it. So I agree with you, and I think that initiative is always good to try to incorporate them into that process as much as we possibly can. And I would like to do anything to enhance that. It doesn't always work that way, unfortunately, but it's always worth the try.
Yeah, it would be great to change history. The history of the IDA and county, and it happens in other counties somewhat too, yes. Although Seneca County seems to be one of the worst after watching many others over many years. The history is so long, it would be really something if we could change it. And, part of that goes to having a well-integrated economic development policy, which no one has ever agreed to do.
Well, Valerie, just on that point, it's kind of the point that I'm trying to aim for and maybe direct us is the collaboration and the momentum that had been built up, particularly towards the beginning part of this year on the strategic economic development plan. I would love to see how we can start to turn the conversation towards that end. For people swimming in the same direction with a common goal. And, maybe it's time that we re-energize, maybe refocus some of our energies into that end. I know Sarah's already doing this, but I'm just saying, I think to flip the script here a little bit is way overdue.
I wholeheartedly agree with you.
It is definitely way overdue.
Unless there's some more discussion, I believe there's no other business before us under other business. If not, I'd like to move ahead to the executive session. We do need to have an executive session. So I request a motion to enter into executive session for the discussion of the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of particular persons or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of particular persons.
I'll make a motion. This is Steve.
So second.
I'll second. This is Don.
Okay, so Kelly, roll call.
Ms. Bassett?
Yes.
Mr. Brusso?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Kime? Mr. Kime? Mrs. Policelli?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Trout?
Yes.
Mr. Wadham?
Yes.
Mr. Kime?
Yes, I had this on mute. Sorry about that.
Motion carried.
Okay, welcome back to the Seneca County IDA meeting. We're out of executive session. There's no, it was discussion only. There's no action on that executive session. There's no other business before the board. So if I can have a motion to adjourn.
This is Menzo, motion to adjourn.
Second, this is Don.
Steve, do we need to get a motion first on the personnel issue?
We'll deal with that the next time.
Okay.
So I guess all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the IDA meeting is done with. Next is the Seneca County Economic Development Corporation meeting. So anyone on the IDA that's not on the EDC, if you want to, you're more than welcome.
Have a good day, everybody. See you later.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Take care.
Okay, are we ready to go?
I think so.
Yeah, we're ready if you are.
Yeah, boy, that was a long meeting. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the Seneca County Economic Development Corporation meeting for December 2020. And if, Kelly, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Bassett?
Yes.
Mr. Brusso?
Yes.
Mr. Kime?
Yes.
Mrs. Policelli?
I'm here. Yes.
Okay. Like, hopefully you read the EDC meeting minutes from October 1st of this year. Any additions or corrections? If not hearing any, a motion and a second to approve.
I move to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Erica.
Steve, I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, Kelly?
Ms. Bassett?
Yes.
Mr. Brusso?
Yes.
Mr. Kime?
Yes.
Mrs. Policelli?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. EDC financial statement. Erica?
Hold on a second. Digging through this massive pile of paperwork. Well, I mean, do you want me to go through everything or do you have questions? There was not much activity that I recall from our meeting in October. Sarah, do you have anything to add to that?
No, everything with the EDC is sort of par for the course. With the cemetery, I think we did do a $40,000 transfer
Right.
from the EDC to the cemetery, but other than that, there really wasn't anything particularly noteworthy.
Right, and that will be, we think, will that be our last transfer, we think?
For this year, and then we'll probably need to do one in the new year.
Got it.
All right.
Any questions or comments on the financial statement?
Valerie, I'd just like to make a comment if I could.
Yes,
Included,
please, Bob.
included in the packet was a consolidation of balance sheet and the P&L statement. Normally, when we provide statements on a monthly basis, we have a statement for the EDC and a separate statement for the cemetery. But when we come to year end, we need to understand we need to consolidate those two statements as one entity. And the impact is that on the balance sheet, the receivables that are reflected at the EDC level and the payable that is reflected at the cemetery level are eliminated. And the schedule shows accordingly what impact that does have on the consolidated statements for the EDC. And as of the end of October, consolidated assets would be $249,000. We would have a operating loss of 90,000. And again, the liabilities and equity measure the 249 as well. And that would be your basis for your audit. And the statements that would come out of your audit would be based on that consolidation.
Okay, any questions on Bob's comments on the consolidated balance sheet?
Oh, sounds good.
Okay, motion to accept the financial statements.
Make that motion. This is Steve.
Second. I'll make the second. And Kelly, roll call, please.
Ms. Bassett?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mrs. Policelli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now, the Governance Committee report recommended approval of the new policy for FOIL, Freedom of Information Law. Sarah, could you just give a brief overview of that new policy, please?
Yep. So the brief overview is that the FOIL policy is the same as that of the IDA, which was approved in the November IDA board meeting. It's just a standalone public-facing policy to make our process more transparent.
All right. Any questions or comments on that policy? Motion to approve.
So made.
Second, this is Erica.
Thank you. Roll call, Kelly?
Ms. Bassett?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mrs. Policelli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay. The recommended approval of the established policies, one with modifications. Sexual harassment policy. Sarah, would you review the modification to that policy, please?
Sure. So it was a minor modification just to specify that board members are constituted as volunteers, so they would need to receive the sexual harassment training. And it added a sentence just clarifying that anybody who's received the training through an employer or some other agency for the year can submit a certificate or proof of completion and does not have to do the training twice.
Okay. Any questions or comments on that modification or the policy itself? Motion to approve.
So made, Erica.
I'll second.
Second. Thank you. Roll call, Kelly?
Ms. Bassett?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mrs. Policelli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, now our established policies with no modifications: audit committee charter, conflict of interest, capitalization policy, code of ethics, disposition of property policy, equal opportunity policy, governance committee charter, investment policy, procurement policy, records and retention policy, supplies and equipment policy, whistleblower policy, and mission statement. Does anyone have any comments on these policies which have been recommended with no modifications? Hearing none, motion to approve these 13 policies.
I'll make a motion. This is Erica.
Second.
Steve, I'll second.
Second.
You. Okay. Kelly, roll call, please.
Ms. Bassett?
Yes.
Mr. Brusso? Mr. Brusso?
Yes.
Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mrs. Policelli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And to the governance committee self-evaluation. No, this is a brief overview. No changes to the governance charter or the governance guidelines at this time. No documents disposed of other than valueless records per the records and retention policy. All records are disposed of via paper shredding. During 2020, the governance committee had one meeting in which they completed the following and provided their recommendations to the full board: a new FOIL policy, review of established policies, and review and renewal of professional service contracts. And I think all we have to do is read that. Any comments on that? Hearing none. On to contract renewals for 2021. Let's see, we can approve all of these at once. Are there any questions? We were given extra information this time with the fees related to them for Humphrey Memorials, David Harrington, Dermody Burke and Brown, Bob Kernan, Bill Yale, and Fred Flagg. Any questions on any of those?
Everything
Hearing
looks
none.
good.
Okay. Hearing none, motion to approve these contracts.
This is Steve. I'll make the motion.
This is
Second.
Erica. I'll second.
Roll call, Kelly?
Ms. Bassett?
Yes.
Mr. Brusso? Mr. Brusso?
Yes.
Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mrs. Policelli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Grant status report. Looks short. Who's Sarah, Pat? Who's doing that? Just a quick overview.
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah. There's just one for the EDC. It's the OCR grant in the amount of $600,000 for Earl Martin's Seneca Dairy Project for the purchase of equipment for their building. The equipment has been ordered. It has not yet been received, so we've not done an invoice yet, OCR, for the reimbursement. The grant does not expire until December 31st of 2021.
Thank you, Pat. Any questions or comments on that grant for Seneca Dairy? Okay, on to items to be disposed of, and I believe there are none. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other business to come before the EDC?
None at
No?
this time.
Okay. Do we need an executive session for anything, anyone?
No, we do not.
Oh, okay. Motion to adjourn.
Made.
Oh, or second it.
Second?
Yeah, I can second.
All right. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Thank you.
Aye.
Right, guys.
So, yeah, it's now down to,
I'm gonna step off. I think, I've got another meeting here at 2:30, so and I'm not on this next committee, so I'm signing off.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah,
Thanks, folks.
bye.
See you later. Bye.
Am I on the next committee? Is there, I don't have anything else in my packet here.
Nope, you're free and clear now, officially.
Final sign off.
Final
We're gonna
sign
miss
off.
you, Mayor.
Thank
Yeah.
you, everyone.
Everything.
Been a
Have a
pleasure
nice-
working with you.
Yes, bye.
Bye, Erica.
Hi, Erica.
Steve
So,
Russo.
for the
10 minutes
Seneca
down.
County Funding Corp. First item is approval of the meeting minutes from October. Anyone have any questions or comments or corrections?
I would so move their approval. Bob Kernan.
Second, Valerie.
Ollie?
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Ms. Bassett?
Yes.
Mr. Brusso?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Second item, it's similar to the other ones, the governance committee evaluation. And there's no changes to the governance charter or the governance guidelines. No documents disposed of. We did hold one meeting in 2020, and we recommended to the full board changes in the sexual harassment policy and FOIL policy, and we reviewed established policies. So, speaking of policies, we went through and recommended approval of the new policies. So the first one is the FOIL policy, which is the same one as the IDA and the EDC. And then the second revised policy is a sexual harassment policy. And again, that's the same as the IDA and the EDC policy. So I'd like to have a motion to approve.
So moved, Bob
moved.
Kernan.
Second, Valerie.
Can we have a roll call?
Mr. Brusso?
Yes.
Ms. Bassett?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Here, we went through and the 14 other policies we reviewed, and there's no recommended changes to those policies. So unless someone would like to discuss or do any modifications to those, I'd like a motion to approve the established policies with no modifications.
This is Valerie, so moved.
This is Bob Kernan, second.
Roll call?
Mr. Brusso?
Yes.
Ms. Bassett?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Governance Committee self-evaluation. I went through that a little earlier. I think there's no other business. No executive session. So with that, motion to adjourn.
So moved, Bob Kernan.
Second, Valerie.
So Kelly?
Mr. Brusso?
Yes.
Mr. Kernan?
Yes.
Ms. Bassett?
Yes.
Motion carried.